Hello, campaigners, and welcome to the Bose 3 podcast. Here is your host, fresh off the campaign trail, John Bose.
Hey everyone, John Bose. It's another Thursday night. Well, actually, we're recording this on a Sunday, and the Patriots are killing the Chargers, so we're happy about that. I am here with another exciting guest, Ellen Pesovich, who basically is one of the best organizers I've ever met. She runs a very tough city, Brockton, and it's a Democratic stronghold, but there's a lot of competing interests. So I'm got her on so that people who are brand new to organizing can hear some advice of somebody who's done it for years. Ellen, tell everyone about your background.
Well, I didn't do much politicking before the early 80s, 1980 as a matter of fact. And once I got involved, I really loved it. It was like a party every day, for me anyway.
So early 80s would be Dukakis?
Yeah, I was actually, the very first thing I did was as a campaign manager for a woman running for school committee in the city of Brockton. And she had a campaign manager, but that campaign manager got sick.
Okay.
And so she said to me, would you do it? And I said, well, I don't know very much about it, but I'll be glad to. So we ran an almost campaign with no money.
No money.
And but it was a small ward campaign for school committee. And the candidate she ran against wasn't that fabulous. So
okay.
She always worried she was going to lose, but she didn't lose, and that was a good thing. So then she got elected to the school committee, and so we became part of the fabric of the political scene in Brockton. So in a small way.
You started getting introductions.
Yes. Well, you go, and I love being out with people, so that was easy for me. It wasn't hard, and I had children at home and a husband and everything that needed attention. So, I don't know whether I worked then. I didn't work, I don't think then. So anyway, then after that, the next event was a campaign between King and Dukakis. Which was
a legendary battle.
It was. And so I got involved with that with the gentleman that was running it in Brockton. Mm-hmm. And we were doing things like getting people elected to go to the convention, so that the whole 15% thing of getting your delegates on. Yes, exactly.
So King and Dukakis, that was the governor's race.
Yeah.
And in order for them to be nominated, they need to get 15% at convention.
That's correct.
So you were basically whipping delegates for Governor Dukakis.
Now you have to understand, and that will go into any kind of thinking that we have about how you lay out a campaign in a community, whether it be a town or a city, or a state or a county.
Right.
That you had to know that in Brockton, at least, let's take that as an example, that it's a city of 100,000 people, and that it has 7 wards, and it has 4 precincts in every ward. So that's got to know.
You got to know the breakdown.
You got to know the breakdown. That's true. So anyway, what I did was I recruited people, and since I was teaching at the time, and so I recruited a lot of teachers. And teachers historically hadn't been involved in politics because it was kind of a dirty business. It was the guys on the phone book. Yeah. So, but anyway, we started that, and on it went. And so I was involved in all the campaigns that came down the road, state campaigns and city campaigns.
Now you ended up running for state committee at one point?
Oh, I ran 2 or 3 times. I ran for state committee beginning for the county. Mm-hmm. I lost that, and I ran for state rep. Okay. And I ran for city councilor. I didn't win anything, and there were a lot of reasons, but mostly I wasn't a city. Wasn't born and brought up in the city. Right. That was one thing, and the other thing was that it was a pretty close cooperation, and I was a kind of a liberal type, progressive
Democrat.
Yeah. And so that wasn't, and they didn't like Dukakis in Brockton either. He didn't in fact win Brockton in that particular campaign that I worked in. However, he won the state, and then he won the governorship. So I happened to then get to know all those people, and which was very helpful and instrumental to me in doing things.
One of the things I try to stress to people is there is winning, and then there's losing winning.
That's right.
There are some times where your only job is to hold the line,
That's right.
not let them run huge margins up on you.
Right.
So that, like you said, while you lose your city, he wins the state,
Yeah.
and the margins are so small in your city that they can't make up the difference.
I have to tell you that in that particular experience, as we did that, I became so impassioned with the whole thing. I was teaching school. I got out at 3:00, so I worked. I did stuff. We had a headquarters. And the gentleman that was running the campaign wasn't all that interested, so he let me do everything.
He let you do everything.
So that people might have, and it was tough because, and that will go on when we talk about recruiting volunteers, because everybody wants to be important. It's
Right.
really a tough thing sometimes, but nevertheless, we did well and moved on. And
So Dukakis becomes governor.
yeah, and then people came to me and asked me to help
Okay.
in various campaigns, and that's happened over it's almost 30 years now.
You blink and it flies by, doesn't it?
Yeah, 30 years, and so I've done several mayor's campaigns in Brockton. I actually I've done governor's campaigns, I've done senators' campaigns, and contributed to a certain extent to presidential campaigns. Obama, we did a little bit, but local people don't do a lot other than holding their own in the local place.
Well, so the first time I ran into you was Deval Patrick won.
Right. That was one of
which Brockton turned out. You guys had a machine over there.
we did, and I have to tell you that it made a difference. I found out that you have to meld with other people. You have to have other people come in and have different ideas, and so you have to agree. The one thing I said with the Deval Patrick campaign was, I want to make the decisions for Brockton. And even though we had people from the campaign, I held firm to that. And frankly, it was the easiest campaign for me to run. And I have to mention a gentleman by the name of Paul Sullivan, who was also a state committee man, and he was very helpful. He did certain things that I couldn't do, and he could talk to certain people that I couldn't do.
Right.
And that's what we're going to talk about when we talk about how you go out there and organize yourself so that you have, when you talk about an organized campaign, because that makes a huge difference in a field organization.
Now, she underplays her role in President Obama's election. Because Brockton was sending busloads of volunteers
To New Hampshire.
To help support. And I honestly believe that you were playing a significant role by the number of people you had engaged. So we ran all the way up to, we've done Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, that was a great campaign. But there are factors that go into this before you get to the field. There are.
So let's talk about. Let's leave the history behind. Let's talk about the fact that this president, while being completely